Hey everyone, welcome back to my Business by Design Summit. And today in my hot seat, I have a very special goddess sister from Texas. I have Sheree Keys, who's a mother of 4, author of 8 books, a dynamic business coach and consultant that I just adore and love. And I cannot wait to interview her today. So get your notes ready, take good notes, and really pay attention. Hi Sheree, how are you?
Doing good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to turn the volume up a little so hopefully we don't get any echo. Yeah, definitely take notes because I tend to make people's minds kind of go, woo. Yeah. I had a client say, wow, if this is your slow day, I never want your fast day.
I'm already taking notes just in the little bit that we talked, prior to hitting record. So awesome. So tell us, Sheree, really how you got into working for yourself. What pulled you into being an entrepreneur?
Okay, and then first of all, disclaimer on the hair, because we talked about this before we started recording. I couldn't find a blow dryer. I'm on vacation, and so this is Sheree's. What do you do when you don't have a blow dryer? You do the little flip old style. So there we go. Okay.
She's gorgeous. If you're a goddess, you're
I do feel beautiful anyway, but there's a certain kind of, I'm from Texas. There's a certain kind of poof and body thing that girls like to have. So I don't want anyone thinking I didn't prepare for you guys because I do value your time. Okay. Anyway, being funny. Okay, so way back when I was a baby, 24, because that's what feels like when you're like in your 20s, I left the corporate world because I had my 3rd daughter. And I had technically started my online business when I was single and dating, and then I got married, and then I had this 3rd daughter. So I kind of kept them overlapping like we do, the corporate job and the online thing. Now you got to remember, this is back in 2000, 2001. We were still taking cords and plugging them into the wall and listening to that noise just to hear the internet come up. You were lucky if you could go in and update your website in one session. Like, that's how slow the internet was back then. Even though it was cable wasn't everywhere, and it wasn't even like I lived out in the country. It was in the middle of the city. But it was an exciting time because if you were doing something online, and especially if you knew how to market in a newsletter way back when, before anybody even knew what those were, like Yahoo chat groups were like the thing back then, that we really got a lot of leads from in the early days. So just to kind of give everybody an idea, like how long I've been doing this and gone through all the waves. I mean, social networking didn't even come to be till halfway through my business. And so it's been extremely exciting the last 7-8 years when, the way I grew the first half of my database was literally getting in the car and speaking at events all over the place in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is where I lived at the time. To back up a little bit, I got really lucky in that I happened into a business model that was way more powerful than a service-based business. I didn't understand that in the beginning. I did understand a lot of basic concepts from my corporate world and from the degrees that I had about supply and demand. And when I was in the corporate world and I was, transitioning myself out and I knew I wanted to do something from home, I was thinking some type of writing, maybe technical writing, something that I can, work 20, 30 hours a week, make close to what I was in the corporate world. And the big reality was that it was going to be half of what I made in the corporate world, and I was going to work twice as much as that. And I had these 3 kids under 5 at home. So real quick after, at least researching the industry that I wanted to be in, which I call the writing industry, what came to me was that, wow, this is a huge industry, because I found endless books on how to make money as a writer, from technical writing to nonfiction books across the gamut. There were magazines dedicated to this industry. So it was quite a large industry. It was really hungry. And there were organizations. And I thought, I've done all my research for like the last year, because I always joke the first year after you have a baby is all about breastfeeding anyway. So you really only have one hand left anyway. Yes. But I was reading books while I was doing that. So I always tell moms, even if you don't feel like you're starting right now, if all you can do is read a book or listen to an audio, you have started. So be patient with yourself, be graceful. Don't try to be superwoman. I'm so not a proponent of being, I call it the superwoman syndrome, because it actually has the opposite effect and can, there's so much to branding and positioning that if you look like you're working that hard, because you are, it actually hurts you. And so it's that phrase, smarter but not harder. So what happened is I accidentally got into a really powerful business model, which later when people started coming to me, because what happened is I took this first company called the National Association of Women Writers. I'm going to keep doing this with my hair because it's in my eyes. But I took that company over all of the organizations that existed in 3 years. And I was like the leader of the industry in 3 years. A few things that happened was because I was kind of the only one using the internet really powerfully back then. And I think it was because of my age, and that felt like exciting and natural, where a lot of my competitors were already in their mid 40s and 50s, which is where I'm at now. But back then I thought they were like so slow and old. So I just crack up at that. And I also have this story about like all my 20 somethings that I hire now, like they're just always teaching me. So it just cracks me up how that comes full circle. But what happened is I had to sit there and go, well, why is this happening? Because it wasn't because I had the best website. It wasn't because we were teaching the best stuff. It wasn't because, it was me, because I had never been published or anything before that journey. It wasn't because I knew people in the industry. I was this mom in Texas of these 3 little kids that just was working her butt off. And so what I realized is it was all about the model, and it was about leverage, and it was about that I had literally gone into the industry and said, hey, I'm a big fish. And I did have people push back on me and be like, well, you've never been published. And I just kind of was like, had the attitude at that point, and how everything leads you to that point in the journey. I was at that point in entrepreneurship because I had owned some other small businesses that I just didn't care what anyone said. And if you said something negative, I was going to show you success. And so if you're not quite at that place yet, that's part of the journey that you're going to get to when you can put the blinders on. And I call them, hopefully I don't offend anybody, the FU blinders. That really helped me. In the beginning, it was like a chip on your shoulder, the FU blinders, of course. Like, I'm not that way anymore. But honestly, before success happened, before people started to treat me like I could help them and all those things, that's kind of the attitude I had to have, because there was just negativity from the family and all that fun stuff. So that was kind of what many of our early journeys are. They're not supported. My experience, and everyone that I've coached and myself, is that people will get on that train of success once it's moving. But until it's moving, they're like not getting on. They're not brave enough. They're not courageous enough. So it's going to be you being courageous. And the only way you're going to fail is if you quit. And I'll even go one step further and say it's if you quit for a long period of time, because I did quit a few times. I was so frustrated a few times at how slow it was going. But it was like 3 or 4 weeks later and I was back at it. So I call that a break. So, so it's quit, right? Yes. So I even think, don't be so hard on yourself if you feel like quitting one day. You're not a quitter. So stop with the negative labeling of yourself. It's just this whole thing about reframing everything to be positive will take you so far. Okay, so that's kind of the early journey. And I stayed with that one network for many years. And what started happening is I was having people from multiple industries come to our live events and come and speak on, the telesummits and teleseminars had started popping up. So I was having a lot of success with that. And we were turning it into, hard packaging because we weren't into digital programs quite yet. So I had met everybody in the industry, and I started getting my own coaches, and my own coaches started pushing me to stop propping everybody up and start being the innovator in the spotlight, which is what one of my coaches, said that I was meant to be. So I started going through my own journey. And then what happened is enough people came to ask me, I have this quilting magazine that has 23,000 people, or I'm a neuroscientist and people are coming to me to learn all things neuroscience. I love those 2 examples because they're such kind of extremes in our world. How can I start a network? And the lights went off. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of the only one out there who has the success behind her, who can teach it and teach my journey the way all these amazing things I had to learn at that point, 7 or 8 years in. And so that's when the first, version of Network Building Academy, which we have today, started, and just an amazing journey past then of, what's been great about me, because I'm pretty much more of an introvert than an extrovert. But for my passion and for my service, I can get very extroverted, because one coach really switched me one day when she said that when it's not about you and it's about the message, everything melts away. That's fear. And when I turned that around, it was huge. And it was just getting on the stage the first time and just thinking about, what do these people need to know about my journey? It was never about me again. And that was huge. That was a huge shift. It wasn't about what I was wearing or what I looked like or if I was 10 pounds over or all that crazy stuff that holds us back. That's ego.
That just gave me goosebumps. I'm sorry. It's like a journey thing that I went through too. So I'm with you, sister.
So good. It's so good. And I mean, I'm going to throw kind of like all kinds of like mechanics in here and ego stuff in here, because I mean, that's all been part of it. It's when I get on the phone with people and, you know, you're intuitively listening to what they say and you feel what's blocking them. That's where you go. You go to all these places. So, so my view of business is that, you know, I call it the 3 M's. Like, there's so many fascinating things to learn about marketing. If you just pick 4 or 5 that you love and you do those consistently and you cross promote even those 4 or 5 things, and so I'll just throw them out there: website, blogging, social networking, any type of visual type, you know, it can be, you know, we were talking before we recorded, live streaming type thing, but anything. Visuals really work really great because there's just all these different personality types that are going to plug into your marketing for different ways. Do not forget all the words, because words are sticky, and words on the internet is what, because I've always from day one been so good about consistently blogging and consistently doing things with words. There's just nobody's ever going to hit this erase button. So work literally in teleseminars, literally in books I wrote literally over a decade ago, are still being read, and people are still finding me from work I sat behind a desk and did a decade ago, which is crazy. So if you're not a writer, you're going to have to outsource it, or not put so much pressure on yourself, and just start writing how you talk and just putting it in little chunks. And when you get used to just writing how you talk, writing becomes easy. But the internet is so powerful for you if you will work some of the marketing strategies with words. So anyway, back to the 3 M's. So there's marketing, there's mindsets. And so mindsets, you know, everybody teaches on marketing, everybody teaches on mindsets. Mindsets are fascinating. It's all that blocking stuff. It's the wounds that we have that hold us back. It's our own ego. I mean, I got into an extremely competitive stage there for a while. Once, you know, I had already passed multiple 6 figures, passed my first million, and all of a sudden, I don't even know who this woman was. This was like right before my midlife catharsis. And I'm like checking all my colleagues' Facebooks, and I'm like spending Facebook dollars, and I'm just being honest to like be bigger than them. And so like this, I won't say it's an ugly side, because I got bigger, the message got bigger, I'm helping more people. But for me, it was just, I didn't know who she was. So you will go through these things, through this metamorphosis. You know, it's like just like the butterfly, liquid in the cocoon. If you open the cocoon too soon, the butterfly dies. So you have to be so graceful on yourself. You know, I call it growing business gracefully. So be gentle on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. If people rub up against you and they say something, you know, kind of listen, because them rubbing up against you will round out your edges, right? And there's also this fascinating thing about having boundaries and all these wonderful things we learn to like really be able to not be affected and not have attachments to anything that comes your way. And that's the journey of entrepreneurship. And that's a journey that many of us go through, especially if, you know, we're empathic or we're sensitive. Not to mention that we have a whole life of stuff we're dealing with too, right? So my oldest child has Asperger's, and then my youngest child have every other label on the other side of the spectrum. And so, you know, we got all this other stuff we're dealing with. And I always tell people all these challenges are there for a reason, and they're there for a future journey piece that's all going to make sense later, but you have to be patient enough. And that's what we're not in this society. We're not patient enough to actually appreciate what we're being given every single day. And if you can just reframe everything into a positive, which is what I've been really good at, all the hard stuff actually becomes a gift too. So there's all that piece. But so we talked about marketing. We talked a little bit about mindsets, which is kind of all over the place. Everybody's different on their mindsets because they're at different places in the journey. The business models is what I don't see anybody talking about. So I have this whole spiel about how women are groomed from kindergarten to be of service. From kindergarten, we're taught by the time we get to college that we're going to either be a nurse, a social worker, a teacher. You know, we go in all the service-based businesses. I don't know if you went to college. Then you get there, and who's over at the business school? Who's over at the engineering? Full of men and a small percentage of women. Women are at all the service-based types jobs. And it's like all of society groomed us this way. So then we go out into the world with our degrees. Then on top of that, we're supporting people at churches. I don't go to church, but society
Yes.
is, I mean, you know, he and I, he, she, I, we're connected, we're tight. So I don't need to go to
That's
the
right. No.
but and I just my kids like go to church like crazy because they love all the social stuff. But anyways, and that's a whole nother.
You can totally tell you're from Texas. You have to like soften that for a minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because my
Here in
Lord.
Vegas, we're like whatever.
Right. Because in Texas, it's like because
You don't go to church. Ooh.
I know, right? I mean, because that's how it is here. And that's why I travel a lot.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, my youngest is 9, and the minute he hits college, everybody knows mom's out of Texas. Mom's gone. That year he goes to college, I'm like, woohoo! Oceans, here I come. But anyway, so we gravitate into these service-based businesses, which really don't let women rise to actually be able to make decisions, you know, when it comes to political decisions, any of the things that we need to change in our society. We don't have any clout to do so because we haven't been taught basic building of equity and leveraging of a business and any of those things. So that's where I've really become passionate about the business models. It's just, especially women, because you're paying all the same money on your websites. You're paying so much money to have people delegate to you and support you. Most of y'all are just in the wrong business model. You're not in anything that builds equity every single day that you can sell off later. So with every member that comes into this membership-based business, that's equity. And there are actually valuation models out there for membership-based businesses. It's actually the simplest valuation model that exists because there's some pretty intense, you know, it looks like an intense math class when you Google valuation, not evaluation, but valuation, which is how you decide what a business is worth. So anyway, so I've been really passionate. Once I realized what I happened into in this journey of how powerful the business model had been, because I realized pretty quickly that I could get things to happen for my members because of this business model brand. Then it became me that needed to do the growth. And so when I'm coaching people on the business models, you can do all the gorgeous branding you want. You can do a lot of different things to put the branding on there, but you still have to understand how to leverage this thing in the right way. You have to be brave and pick up the phone and go out and meet people on behalf of those members. And so that's where my bachelor's in social work and that advocator person in me really began to shine. So again, all your past experiences will help you in some way. There was a lady that I was coaching last week, and she got this big corporate gig that's paying her all this money while she's building her network, and she's so frustrated because it's taking all her time. And I said, first of all, you've been given this amazing amount of money to fund your dream. Secondly, I am totally 120% sure that you're going to learn something there and there's no way, because of the pressure, and this is a really stressful job and it's stretching her. I go, that stretch is the thing that's going to make this easier. So just always know you're in the right place, even if it doesn't feel like it. If you can really believe that. Iyanla Vanzant, I don't know if you ever read her book, In the Meantime. She called that being in the meantime.
I like that.
Yeah, really great. So, I mean, and you can be in the meantime in your marriage. You can be in the meantime raising children. You can be in the meantime in business. And so her book was great with that. And I read that long time ago. And it's so good. I've always had that in my head when I'm not particularly liking where I'm at.
Yes.
Yeah, you know. Anyways, I'll go off on another tangent about love, but I won't, because we got a lot of business stuff to share. So yeah, I mean, being in the meantime as a single mom is like a big meantime, especially when you got 4 and you're 45. It's a whole new dating thing. Last time I dated was like 20 years ago. The last 3 years have been so, like, talk about learning about yourself and your own choices and people you attract. And like the last time you attracted people was 20 years ago, and you're like, whoa, it's an interesting thing dating again in midlife. Love it.
Yes.
Learned a lot. So that's why I'm so passionate about the business models. So I've been able to sell 2 or 3 of these companies that I create. And for me personally, as a creative soul, and being what I love to do and what I've been doing all of these 15, 16 years as being an entrepreneur, is going down different rabbit holes of passion that I have. So I would create a network around this passion. I would go out and get all the leaders who are already in the industry. I would come in, have them teach my people. Sometimes I would teach my people in those specific rabbit holes. So writing was one. I got to know everybody in the writing industry. I got to know everything you ever wanted to know about publishing. And then eventually I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. 10 years, I'm tired of talking about writing. You know, isn't that funny? And that's just the creative soul. That I even did it 10 years makes me crazy, because I was done at like 6, but you know, it was just a lot of money and da, da, da. Anyway, then it was entrepreneurship. That was like my new rabbit hole there for 3 or 4 years. And then I just got kind of tired of talking just about that, you know, and then that kind of midlife catharsis. And then I've been all into creative, like painting and, you know, all things artistic, which is kind of a full circle too, back to the writing, because there's a lot that has to do with painting and writing. Reason I'm saying all of this is that you can make multiple 6 figures and 7 figures in whatever you love. So don't let anyone tell you that it can't be about what you love, because that's absolutely what I've done. Had what do you call them? So ex-sister-in-law,
Yes.
an un-in-law, and I love all un-in-law. So I love all the people that have gone through with my journeys. And so, but she comes from the corporate world, so she and I don't think the same at all about our professional careers, you know, because I'm just entrepreneurial soulfully. And, you know, a decade ago when I was starting all this, she said, you can't be many things. You have to be one thing, and that's the only way you can be good at it. And like an angel of, you know, knowledge, the next week I saw Maya Angelou's talking about, someone said that same thing to her, and she said, no, I can be a poet, I can be a singer, I can be a writer, I can be a dancer, and no one's going to tell me different. And I'm like, if that's good, and I got chills just now. And I remember that day, it changed me, because I'm like, if Maya says that, good enough for me. And so I just went from that point on, and everything was more fun along the entrepreneurial journey, because I gave myself permission to do what I loved, and not thinking that just because I loved it, money wasn't going to come. Because what I learned later, it was about being brave. It was about making connections, because it is, you know, the Good Old Boys Network. It is a good old relationship network. What you do for people will come back to you. So behind the scenes, like, I just know these amazing people. Some of them I paid access to become really good friends with. So what I mean by that is I joined a mastermind group that was really, really high level, that would scare the bejesus out of you, what I paid for it. But I absolutely like took that amount of money, because I was always, you know, people ask me like, how did you do the $100,000 mastermind? You know, and then I had them later. Once I did it, I had them. Because before I did it, I ran the numbers. And at that time, and this is a common question I get, so I hope it's okay to go there about like pushing ourselves around money. But
yes,
before I did it, I ran the numbers. I had a $5,000 program, and I think it's 50 people. I realized, you know, and she was having live events, and I was going to be on stage talking and speaking. And I'm like, there is no way I won't make my return back this year, because I'm going to sell to 50 people. What happened is we were like 1 of 10 of 20 people that did that in her whole business ever, because she did away with that program a few years later. And the whole entire group became leaders in the industry within a few years. And so now I'm like friends with all these leaders who have their networks, and so it's just those scariest things. Did I know that any of that was going to happen? No, I just ran the numbers, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make that back. And there's no way I won't make extra. And I get to be around these amazing people, and I need that. Like, I needed it. I was so introverted. I don't know if you have that introvert thing. I used to think I was right in the middle.
I don't know. I love to be home. I love my alone time, but I'll speak on stage to thousands, but I'm not a big fan of small talk networking.
Yep.
I hide from that stuff.
Yeah. And so I used to think I was right in the middle, because I am so good at that too. And I feel fed, and I do feel energetic afterwards. Yeah. But if I'm too much one-on-one, absolutely drains me. I feel like I save all my one-on-one for my children, and then past that, I'm not your mama. And it's different when I coach, because there's such a respect level from the people that manifest into my coaching programs, for the most part. And I'll be completely honest, every year there's 2 people that I let go. And there's, you know, they're the ones that just aren't ready. You know, they're not ready to be coached, not ready to receive, just a whole bunch of stuff every year. So 2 out of 20, it's totally normal. We talk about that behind the scenes, so I don't know how raw and honest we're being on these, and that's just part of holding the space for people at such an intimate level. And money is scary, and it brings up all of our triggers and all that fun stuff. So And I would say, like, even after years of doing that, there was like 4 or 5 years that I had like my own masterminds, you know, the high level group, and then I had the mid level of like 50 or 100 people at like $3,000, and you know, and then we would have video type programs. I had to take a break. I was just like, this has gotten too empire-ish. So is it okay to kind of go there a little bit?
Yes, absolutely.
So
is that a word, empire-ish?
Yeah, it is. I make up words. I don't care. Yeah, I'm so far in this that I joke because I am from Texas. I was, you know, if you can read one of my books, like Smart Women Know Their Why, because there's smart women live their why and there's smart women know their why. I did my whole trailer park story is what I call it, because I was literally, as a child, up until like 1st or 2nd grade, very common roaches crawling on my arm. I mean, if you can kind of get like how I grew up, it's like the worst TV show you've ever seen. And it's an amazing journey, because from very early on, I knew the only way out of all the turmoil and chaos, because my mom was bipolar. She had me too young. She was a stripper. You know, this needs to be a movie someday, because the life I lived until I left home at 17 was insanity. It would make a good movie. Y'all would all be like this, like, oh my God.
No way. What's going to happen next?
She was absolutely a gorgeous woman, so beautiful. But just, you know, she had a rough childhood, and so she had so much stuff, and then being bipolar, it's just total chaos. So I learned very early on the only way out of this was going to be education, because the only place I was happy was at school. The only place that I was loved was at school. So that totally manifested in adult life, trying to be like superwoman in my 20s and 30s. And so I got to the end of my 30s, I accomplished all these things, and then kind of realized, when is this enough? You know, which is kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier. So I just know that when you're on these journeys of building this passionate business, that you may be doing it for the money in the beginning. A lot of people come to me because they're so miserable where they're at. And I always kind of make them backtrack and get them really steady where they're at and reframe all of that to be happy where you're at, because you're going to need where you're at to build a foundation for what you want. So you can't just jump ship and plop into this and think that this new thing isn't going to be hard too, because you're building it. It's a house.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's not a fairy tale. There's no smoke and mirrors, guys.
Yeah. And I also compare it. I have this wonderful blog post that I wrote after I got off it's so simple. But if you've had a kid or you've seen, you know, nieces or nephews, you totally get it. It's called Honey, I'm Having a Business, instead of Honey, I'm Having a Baby.
Yes.
Because I had so many people trying to talk to their spouses. And if you compare it to having a kid, it's so much like that. You don't expect your kid to be able to go to college at 2. There is so much you have to do with this child to get them ready for the world. There is so much money you pour into a child. I think like $100,000 before they ever get to college, right?
Yes.
In food and daycare, and don't even add it up or you'll never have children.
Exactly. You'll never have more than one either.
And then we expect these businesses that are going to have way more of a return than a child would to like be able to grow at like $2,000. We just expect so much from our business, and we're not willing to nurture it. Right. And we're not willing to spend time with it, you know. And so the blog, and it's a great blog for anyone struggling with the spouse support, and it can go both ways, women, husbands, either way. Women, husbands. But are you proud of me?
Yes, I am.
Covered all my things. Yeah, I have children that like are so they're amazing. I don't know, like, you know, there's transgenders all over their high schools and everything, and we're in Texas too.
I know. So, here I expect that.
yeah, no, it's phenomenal. We were talking about this the other day. My children, I just sit there and listen because I'm learning. I'm like, wow, such a huge different world. But anyways, covering all my bases, but I totally go off on tangents. You're like, oh my God. Okay. So, Honey, I'm Having a Business. And it's a really great conversation of how to sit down and talk to that partner about how much time you're going to need to spend with it, how much money, and that you can't give them any guarantees, because everybody wants the guarantees of how it's going to be. I even have people coming into the coaching program wanting those guarantees. There are none. There are no guarantees. No. So just like a child, you don't know what you're getting. All you can do is guess and test. And yes, there are some things we've all found out as a group of people living on this earth. Some things actually work, and you can be taken in a certain direction. And that's what I tell people about business. We were just talking before we recorded, like a few days ago, I think Periscope's like 4 months old. at the time of us talking. And just a few days ago, Facebook opened up a live stream that's only letting its verified people who have pages even use right now. And they've been testing it for like 48 hours now. And it is so much better than Periscope, because when the video goes live, it actually sends a message to everybody on your page and everybody on Facebook. So it looks like you uploaded a video, but what's happening is it's live stream. So like Shalene Johnson didn't even know when she went to do a video the other day, because she was testing the app for him. And like all of a sudden 12,000 people pop up and are watching her live on a video. And she's like, I'm going jogging. I didn't even know. I was just playing.
I don't have a top on.
Because Facebook sends all of
me. Right? I'm not even dressed. Oh, shoot. How do you turn this off?
And she's all like, luckily I put lip gloss on. She was really cute about it. And so she's been using it like crazy the last few days, because it's so much better than Periscope, because it's connected directly into Facebook. So that's the thing with technology. So there are no guarantees. Things that I teach that will take you forever are the mindset stuff. Things that I teach, business models, business mechanics, how my membership model works. And so when I talk about membership models, if it's okay to go there, and I'm going to give everybody a free book download. At the end, it'll go way deeper than this. But membership model is not a continuity, the way I teach it, it's not a continuity program in a service-based business. So that what that means is a continuity program is recurring revenue stream of something you're selling in a service-based business. That can be very powerful too. And the reason that it's a lot harder, and I'm going to try to say this really simply so it can be really quick. The reason that that particular model is a lot harder, because of the positioning and the platform you have to build as a service-based business has to be much bigger to get the results and the numbers higher. And I'll tell you why in a second. Because at the end of the day, it's still one to many. So you're one person, one solopreneur to many people. And so you have to do things like be a leader in your industry, get a book written. There's a number of ways to like have a solid platform as a solopreneur. And so many people do that. And that's been around forever. You know, lots of, you see lots of stars, for instance, building businesses on their brand, you know, like, you know, Honest, I forget what her name is now. I'm going to give you examples and I'm forgetting names, but anyway. Okay. So that's not what I'm talking about. It can be powerful, but it takes a lot more work, time, and money. If you're a person who has a passion for a group of people that you're really passionate about, I always tell people for at least 10 years. I mean, you could do it 5 or 6. I've done it 5 or 6, but I tend to move a lot faster because the fear is gone and I have connections and I have a database, and these are things I worked really hard for and have invested millions in building. I remind people of that. You know, it gets easier for everybody who puts the time and money in, okay?
Right.
But I was so happy to be doubling my corporate income in the first few years and be home with my children and be living the life nobody had, because back then nobody had that. So I always tell people, you know, think about the real world out there. Don't forget what's out there and what you have to go back to when you're building this too.
Yes.
It's huge. So don't get carried away with all the empire-ish stuff. And I know my own darkness, so I can speak to it. You can get carried away. So, okay. So what I teach, and it's not for everybody, it's really for the people that feel like they've been doing all those things. They've been, maybe they wrote the book, or they've been doing everything everybody's teaching, but they still feel contained. And that's because a service-based business can only grow so big. The membership-based business, which traditionally people out in the world know, and I always say there's a lot of stuff that happens very subconsciously in marketing. People have a traditional view of what an association, the word association, the word institute, academy is starting to get stretched a little about what people think that means anymore, but association and institute are really still very solid and have a very traditional, across the board view of what people think they are. They think they're big. They think they're in a big building, probably. They think there's a board of directors. They just assume all of these wonderful, great myths that will work for you. Now you take that, and then you take the power of everything that's happening with technology online, and it's such a great magical thing that can happen, and you get to be the leader of it. So offline, I'm like calling people, getting things to happen. I get free stuff at my conferences from huge magazines, you know, because they want to send their magazines to the writers, so the writers will buy the magazine. And it's just so much leverage you have if you can be the leader of a target market and a group of people, and you get to claim that just by building the website and stepping into the role. And so a lot of what I end up coaching on is having people role play and talk and become this different person that is so completely different from who they are today. What I used to say, and I'm not there anymore, but for just like 4 or 5 years ago, I've kind of finally caught up to myself. So what I mean by that is I was always acting like a certain person to you guys, who you expected me to be, being the leader, being the CEO of the large organization with all these people. Behind the scenes and inside me, I still hadn't caught up to that. I always felt like, who am I?
Outgrew your business, or actually, yeah, your business outgrew you.
Yeah, and even though I really checked off everything on the list that could be successful, multiple 6 figures, had passed the 7-figure mark in 2009. What was really cool about that, it was just me kind of catching up to myself. And I think I also needed to take a breath and take some time off and heal some stuff too, because it was all those childhood wounds that were doing that, I learned. But anyway, good stuff. So a lot of stuff, we all have it. Like, it's all coming up for all of us. So it's just so good and juicy, these entrepreneurial journeys. When you are willing to work through a lot of this stuff that all meshes together, amazing things can happen. So then it's not even about you anymore. Business is not about me. Business is about, these days, it's all about what's the fastest, least amount of time I can spend making the most money. Because I'm 45 years old and I want to pile as much away as I can so that my kids can have just enough to make them safe, but not enough that they won't learn. Right. Proponent that they have to work for it, and that's all they've ever seen is mom work for it. So, you know, they both have to work while they're going through college. I don't believe that your kids just get to sit and study, even though so many parents do that.
Right.
And both people I married had that life. It's just, I just think I learned so much from having to work and balance and do all that. Anyway, another tangent. And that's a personal choice. So I love the people they're turning out to be, because and they push back on it. Like, when the first one totaled her car and I made her pay for the second one, we had the biggest, huge blowout a mother and a daughter can have. Like, she went and lived at friends' houses for 4 days. So don't think I'm not going through all the stuff everybody else goes through. And I was like, have fun, but you're still paying for your car because you wrecked the first one. Anyway, and then now she's like so proud of every payment that she gives me to pay for her Prius. And but yeah, they kind of act like toddlers again when they get older for a little bit. Anyway, so with the business models, another thing I wanted to mention is that I've seen a real big swing back to, you know, people who, I would say most of them multiple 6 figures, some of them 7 figures. A lot of people I've been coaching who are successful now. You know, I coached them 3, 4, 5 years ago. I'm seeing just a huge sweeping of people getting physical buildings or offices, not a whole building, for their businesses. And I'm still kind of analyzing that and playing with that. So we were all very virtual there for a while, and we still are. But I'm seeing, and I want to like say this before a lot of people start saying it, because in a few years I think it's going to be a thing. We're seeing a sweep of people kind of coming back to the traditional business model and using all of what they've built online too. And I'm just seeing that like a trend. I'm also seeing creativity really coming to the surface and being a huge trend. I don't know if you've been seeing that. Like Elizabeth Gilbert has a book coming out called Big Magic. Like, everywhere I look, I see painting stuff everywhere. I see people embracing how powerful creativity is for entrepreneurs. And I'm like, yeah, I've been doing that for 3 years, you know. But I mean, it's because we're all in the same, we're all one.
Yes.
That's why.
All connected, yep.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing that too. So I don't know what this whole sweep is about people maybe just needing to get out of their homes. Maybe it's because all of our kids left and we can finally get out of our homes, and we were all raising them from home, and maybe that's what I'm seeing because that's who I'm connected to. But I find that fascinating. So really think about your business model. I could go a lot deeper. I don't know how much time we have left.
We're good.
On the business membership model, but there's just so much stuff about leverage and equity that you're building each day, that you can sell it off and move on. So I have people do this kind of double branding where they brand themselves along with the network, but the network is always, they're always the CEO of it. But I mean, I've had people that have followed me from the first network to 3 or 4 networks later. I've sold a few off to partners, and then sold some off to complete strangers. And people just do whatever I do because they trust my quality of work along the way. So you're building your brand, and at the same time, it's given me such flexibility and huge sums of money to be able to go on mini retirement, to be able to get a divorce in grace. And so what I mean by that is, we didn't fight about money, because it takes 2 people to fight about money. And I just gave it all to him because he would have fought about money. Mm-hmm. And the minute that started, I was just like, because he was scared. He was living in fear. He comes from the corporate world, so that's the way the world operates out there. But as an entrepreneur,
and you're a creator. Yeah.
Yeah, we know where there's no fear because there's no scarcity. And so I gave him the house. I gave him every piece of furniture we collected, over the last 20 years, gave him all the retirement, and just walked away. And so a year later, I was like, okay, that was really dumb. Kids, to do those kids.
So much for grace. Screw grace.
Where I had a lot of mommy guilt, because that's what comes up for a lot of us. Yes. Moms, like all of us, if not a lot of us. I had the first 2. The oldest 2 are from a marriage that was for just a couple years, just long enough to have those 2 kids. And it was an abusive person in my early 20s. And so he doesn't help send them to college. And so I was just like, that was really dumb, because I helped this man be successful, get where he is for the last 17 years. I should have taken half of that, because I have these 2 kids that aren't his, that I'm 100% responsible for taking college. So that was really dumb. That's my scarcity mindset and all that stuff in there. And so 3 years later, that's not an issue at all. I'm really proud of the fact that we didn't argue, and that I had the luxury that I didn't have to freak out about money. But don't think I didn't have my moments about, because,
yes.
Had I talked to any divorce lawyer, they would have been like, are you crazy? That's why I didn't talk to any of them, because I knew. So, I mean, there's just so much of a journey that was different. And, I really, really got to find myself after my particular divorce. I wish I could have done it within the divorce, but it just wasn't possible. I tried for 17 years. I got to finally paint and go down this whole creative path that just wasn't supported at all. Like, I would show paintings and he'd be like, just nothing.
And I've seen your post. I love your stuff.
Thank you.
You even did like journal covers. I think I snapped like a screenshot even of one. I was like, oh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you. And it absolutely has nothing to do and everything to do with business models, because it's like I went out and researched all the people in the art industry. I wanted the multiple 7-figure. I mean, I think some are multiple 7 figures. I know there's a few in there, there's 7 figures, but definitely a lot of multiple 6 figures. And I wanted to know how they were doing it. And so I'm researching, and I knew I'd do it in the network, but you have to get past that. And so like the biggest person is big on YouTube, and she's, so it's not like I reinvent the wheel. I just do some research ahead of time and see what's working. And I can't tell you, the videos work if you're doing any kind of creative type network. So again, I'm smart that I'm doing the Global Artist Academy, because I will cash out on that later. I'm taking everything I learned. But I'm also still learning from other people. So I'm kind of throwing all these lessons in here. Like, I'm still a baby, right? And YouTube works so well for things that are visual. So like, I started those in February. We're now in July. No, we're in August.
Yes, we're in August now. August 7th.
I knew that one right. So I started in February. We're now in August. Started posting. I have like 31 videos up, and it's like 12,000 hits, 12,000 views. Nice. So anything that's visual like that, and I never have really, I posted all my media stuff on the news and things from our live events on YouTube. So, it had like maybe 4,000 or 5,000 views. I just never used it as a marketing tool. We would do our videos on Vimeo, and we would use videos for marketing, but it stayed in Facebook and it stayed on our websites.
Right.
So again, always be willing, no matter how many years you've been doing this, to kind of take some time off and try new strategies, even though they've been around forever. Because I'm having fun with the art company and seeing how things work differently based on the new topic, and then there's a whole group of successful artists that put just tutorial videos together for $100. So I'm piling all of these views and these people into this free membership over at Global Artist Academy so that I have this database, and so it's the same mechanics. Business mechanics never change, but it's not about me. That's the thing, is building these brands outside yourself. So I get really, really passionate about business models. So publishing, real quick with books, the easiest way to use books is as marketing tools. So for me, just putting these books out, like a book a year, I even have a book club that you can get all the books for $75 and you get them all free from now on. And I do a new one every year. This year's book is How to Live a Perfectly Flawed Life, because that's what I've really been learning, how hard I used to be at myself. I call myself a recovering type A. And just know, like, all this stuff I'm saying about me, it's not because I want to talk about me the whole time, because I just feel like I need to say that. It's all the things that I've been mirroring back and that have been to me. Like, I feel like this is all the journey we're all on. And so, like, I'm throwing all these things out there for the recovering type A's or the moms, with kids, because I've coached hundreds and hundreds of people, mostly women. And when I don't know, when I have a man to coach, sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to coach them.
I know. I have a challenge with men too. I've coached them before, but it's a totally different dynamic.
Right. Because I'll just be so honest with them, because I'll be just like, coaching the masculine is so different. And what I'm going to be, I explain the feminine and masculine to them, and I say, typically I'm going to be bringing more feminine into your marketing, but maybe I don't need to. I won't know until I get to know you, but it's like, it's a whole different thing than coaching women, entrepreneurs. So that's been interesting. But I found with, the business building that we have now, and the whole business building has been really fun too, because I've rented a lot of the offices out, because it came with 5 offices, to some therapists, and this like 25-year-old kid from Yale who created this speech software. And I'm like, whoa, it's like, that just blew me away, because I'm thinking he's like a little kid, because he's a few years older than my kids. And then, like, he's like super entrepreneur. So anyway, it's fun to kind of bump up against masculine entrepreneurs on a daily basis, because I don't get that online a lot.
Right.
And it's refreshing too, because there's so much stuff. I could go on, and you could too, about the difference between, like, there's a lot of struggle we women have that men just don't have.
Yeah, they're not checking their lipstick before they get on video.
But it's also about, like, decisiveness, and I mean, in the mechanics side of it, like, they don't do things that aren't profitable. That's right. They are taught, especially because I have 3 girls and then a boy, and I've seen this since birth. They are taught from day one to delegate. They're like, bring me that thing, Yeah. They don't think about doing everything themselves. It doesn't even occur to them. So that really serves them in business. So, I mean, I would say all of us women have definitely gotten more masculine as we've gotten more successful.
Yes.
And in the empire-ish businesses, I've seen extreme masculine, and I didn't feel comfortable in that world. So, like, I had to come back down to my feminine kind of creative place. And what I realized is, because I really wanted a lifestyle business at this age, I didn't want an empire business. I didn't want to support all of what came with that, even though it's exciting to know you can do it, and that it's not something that if anymore. But the net, remember when All About the Bass song came out?
Yes.
I created this whole little blog post, and you can put that in the search box too, about it's all about the net. And I went along her little song, because people don't get that. What you spend is so important to your business over the years. That's actual P&L statements you're going to take into banks if you want to leverage lines of credit. So watching the spending is not taught.
Right.
And that's the first thing I do in the first session with clients, is send me your financials. And then they'll say, some of them will be like, what's that? That's exactly.
Oh boy, we have to go backwards.
That's exactly why we need to start there, because their financials aren't in QuickBooks yet. They're in Excel and and so that's exactly what I wish someone would have done with me, and I would have been a lot farther along, a lot quicker. But I don't know about you, but no coach has ever asked me for my financials, and I've paid a lot to be coached.
No, it's usually sales and marketing, but like me with my clients, I dive into every detail of your business.
Yeah, because I mean, everything's right there in QuickBooks. Always
protecting yourself, liability. Do you want to be an S corp, C corp, LLC? I mean, we got to go into the legal stuff. It's not my favorite, but it's necessary.
And it's it's the foundation. Yeah, that's what we do I have that 30 video program, and that's like the first 10 videos is all that wonderful stuff. But okay, so I went all over the place. I hope that was good for you. Because there's a lot to cover.
You covered it all. You did. You covered it all for sure. But one thing though, because you mentioned obviously membership programs, and I'm curious, is all the content in your membership program? Because I'm listening to your Global Artist Academy that you're talking about, which sounds so much fun. I'm sure you're having a blast with that. That's your new baby. But is it all your content, or is it other people's content? Are you piling in content from other experts?
So every network I've done has been different. What I have people do when they're starting networks is really leverage everybody else, because you're going to be so busy building it. And you as a CEO, you're better in the beginning, the first 5 years, getting out there and making connection and meeting high-level people and just being the face of your marketing, getting a book or two written. There's so many things you need to get in place that will serve you forever, that just have other people come in and teach classes. Just have other people be guest bloggers. You shouldn't do everything. So with the art stuff, I interview the well-known people, and I'm totally leveraging them, because people, if the Global Artist Academy has the biggest people in the art industry as their interviews, people are going to want to be my member. It's just not rocket science, but then I also support that it's not, this doesn't come naturally. And you know, when we've done it 15 years, we think this way, but we had to train ourselves to think this way. So I'm not like saying that this stuff is easy. I don't want to like be that way to anybody, because it's a journey.
It's not something you build overnight.
Yeah. But
anybody doesn't have an illusion.
So my book definitely tells you the what and the why. And I'm actually working on revising that book, because what you guys don't know that I know is all my success stories. So in my inbox right now is like 20 success stories from past clients, and you guys see them all out there. They're, you know, Emily Rosen, Christine Kane, all these people who went off and did all of these networks and are doing phenomenal. Kendall Summerhawk, all of them. She has a coaching network. So those are like 3 7-figure ones. And then there's a bunch of 6-figure ones. So I have all these, they've answered all these questions for me. I'm going to put them together in like case studies for you, and then redo the book. So if you sign up for the book now, it's a what and why, but then I'm going to redo it with the case studies. So I'm excited about that. And that was kind of a duh moment. I think we have aha moments, and then we have duh moments. Because I bring these stories up on teleseminars and things when I'm marketing for new programs. You know, the new enrollment of the next Network Building Academy program. But I'm like, I need to put those in the book. Duh. Anyway, so those, I'm excited because you guys need to read their journeys. And it talks about, because I believe you can have, these networks can be coaching centric, they can be event centric, they can be digital centric. And I see people 75% choosing one of those. And I wanted to get behind the scenes and see if that was true. Because for me, I've had businesses focusing on one of those areas at different times. Energetically, that's what works for me. And you can absolutely make as much from digital online programs as you can live events. It just depends on what you want to do. I love speaking at other people's live events. I love being on stage. Doing my own live events is like a freaking wedding. And I hired event management teams that cost me, you know, a cost of a nice car, you know, 30 grand I would spend on these people. And I still had to like manage it all, had to manage them, manage it all. So it was frustrating. It was a lot of money. I made it all back, you know, so there's not the point. We'd spend 250 and we would make 3 or 4 times that in a weekend. So that's kind of phenomenal. I mean, it's really phenomenal, but I just didn't want to do a wedding every year.
That's right. So I managed a 52 city tour for my past boss, and trust me, I hate it.
Yeah, no. It's not the life I wanted to live at this age. It just, you know, especially with my kids getting older, and I spent so much time on the computer building those businesses in the early years because I didn't know how to spend my time. And I was just so determined to be successful and not go back to the corporate world. I just won't do that anymore. Like, I won't work those many hours because I want to spend it all with the kids and the love of my life, you know, because I did find him, by the way. So we'll stay tuned. I don't put my love business on Facebook anymore. I noticed that.
I very little do that. Yeah. Nobody needs to know. Until there's a ring on my finger, it's not anybody's business.
I said the same thing. Because after I've only dated, this is the 3rd person I've dated since, you know, the 3 years ago. And the first person, I thought he was the one. I thought, well, that was easy. Found myself.
Piece of cake.
It wasn't. And I even built him a business and all this stuff we had to like take apart. So it was a great journey. Learned a lot. I learned a lot from him too. He's a fascinating, amazing person. Same thing with the second person. Got a little bit smarter, but he like pushed the whole Facebook thing. And so now, like, you know, he has hundreds and thousands of people that follow him that are my people.
Oh,
They're always asking me questions. I'm like, I don't know. I haven't blocked. I don't know what he's doing. So it's just like, I'm like, never, ever again would I post a relationship on. And I know all of y'all out there are going, well, duh.
That's right. That's a dumb moment, Sheree. Don't you know?
Yeah, but you know, we can be like, you know, we might be old, wise souls in some ways, but some of us are still childlike in other ways. And that is what it means to live a perfectly flawed life. And so letting go of the judging other people is such an amazing place to be. And, you know, that's been such a great journey of loving myself and seeing how much I wasn't loving others. I thought I was really loving them because I was a loving person, but how much I judged. So this whole perfectly flawed thing has been really fun to explore, because we can say we don't judge, and then we really, yeah, it's the one I'm working on now. It's actually finished. We're just in editing stages, so it should be in print the next few weeks.
Very cool. Very cool. I love it.
I'm on like 4%. I'm so sorry. Like
It's
batteries
all good.
across the room. So
It's all good. So just explain what your free gift is to our audience, and then we'll be good to go.
yeah. So www.networkbuildingacademy.com. In the header is a free book called Smart Women Create Membership-Based Businesses. If you see this later and it's a different title, it's because the case studies have been put in there and it's a different version of the same book. So it's the what and the why, and then people are like, well, what about the how? And I'm like, the how is the 30 video program, because there's no way I could tell you all of the amazing stuff that I've learned. And I mean, I haven't even been that mechanical at all. I did a lot of like journey mindset stuff on this call. There is so much mechanics and things I've learned about, like, should you do 1 or 2 memberships? Should they be paid or free? I mean, there's so much mechanical stuff. And so when I teach in those videos, it's all the mechanical stuff. I throw in the mindset stuff that's really common. And the videos are really cool because the first 10 are all startup type things. The second 10 is all marketing and growth and some really powerful strategies. And then the last 10 videos, it's all advanced. So each of the last 10 videos are 6 figures all by themselves. And so a certification program, publishing multiple books, doing live events. You could take each of those videos and put them onto your company. And so I always tell people that 30 videos is like a lifetime library that's going to take you from now on. And I've been updating them because things like, there used to be this automatic Twitter follower that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
It was Tweet Adler. You know, and now we have Edgar. I don't know if you're using Edgar. I love Edgar. Are you using it?
No, I'm not. I need to pay attention to what you're doing.
Oh my God, Edgar is amazing. Edgar is like Hootsuite on 10 times the steroids.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so Hootsuite doesn't do anything compared to Edgar.
Okay,
Edgar,
cool.
like, it's been around a couple of years, but they're being quiet about it. They don't have an affiliate program. It's by, she used to be a VA with Marie Forleo, Laura Roeder, and her husband developed it. You're gonna love it. Like, it's insane. Like, all my clients.
I love that stuff. I'm always looking for good systems.
You're gonna love it. Edgar's gonna be super, super huge because it does everything, and it's catching on really quick. And it doesn't have an affiliate program because they don't want people to think it's good because you're an affiliate, which I love that. I thought that was a great decision. So yeah, new technologies like are making what I teach just super, super easy because now we can turn all the marketing on. You set it all in there once and it goes for you now. It's phenomenal. You're gonna love it. Yeah, I'm giddy, but I can get pretty giddy about Edgar.
I'm an inner geek too. I'm just a geek in disguise completely.
Well, because I've spent so much money delegating what Edgar does over the years, it's insane. Like what Edgar does, I pay staff to do. And I'm happy to do it because what they do is why the whole machine works. So it has a return on investment. So it's not a big deal. But that's what technology does, is it lets us sweep off a group of people and now evolve and put our money into different places. And that's the exciting part of if you can get really mechanical with your businesses. Yeah, it's fun. We could talk all day, couldn't we? And mostly
I know.
So. Okay.
I love it. I love the geek talk. So
Yeah,
you get this free book for the what and the how. I'm sorry, the what and the why.
Yep, because people, I mean, I go deeper with what and why on the membership-based business because we didn't even talk about like what I usually talk about straight for an hour. Just some of the things, because people, it takes them a while to really get the clicks of the business model. Once they get it, and the thing is everything I'm teaching you makes sense if you've been in business at all. Yes. Because if you've been in business for a year or two, you know how it works already, the basics. And I start telling you this stuff and you're like, oh my God, that's so true. And so a lot of it is just things you would never know if you weren't behind the scenes of one of these type businesses, because you get, like, you've seen other people with that kind of leverage doing things, but you didn't know how easy it was for them. You didn't know the tricks that we were doing behind the scenes. And it's just, you didn't know and so like my biggest issue in life is being able to receive and ask for people to support me. I've had to learn that. It's taken me this long to get there, like a few years ago, which was also the reason I was having trouble with those male relationships. So in the business, like I could do that in business. I would go, but it was because it wasn't me. I was asking for my members. Mm-hmm. And I just got so giddy if I could get them the coolest stuff they wanted. Yes, because I owned this network. So yeah. I found that fascinating, and so that helps some people. It helps some people to have this brand along with them. Otherwise, I don't think they'd grow sometimes. So there's so many fascinating things about it. But anyway.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Well, the link is included in the video, in the body of this video, and in the landing page, in the information about Sheree Keys. And I love it. I love it. I can't wait to go. Like, I've got all my notes right here, and I hope all the rest of you guys are going to go take some action.
Yeah, and I'm going to go dry my hair and fluff it up.
That's right. She's going to go get her big Texas hair on today.
It's never that big, but I mean, usually I have like curled hair before I get on an interview. So yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, good. You're lovely. You're lovely. You're lovely. So thank you so much. I'm going to let everybody go. Big hugs and kisses to everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.